Okay.
You ready now?
Oh, he's in the village.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order of the Zoning and Land Regulation Committee. First item on the agenda is public comment on any matter not listed on the agenda. Anyone wishing to speak on any item that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll continue with the introduction of the members. We have our new youth governance members, Aomi Obase and Sam Fisher. Would you like to tell the committee a little bit about yourselves? Brief.
I'm Sam Fisher. I'm going to be a freshman at Forest High School this year, and I'm in student council.
Very good.
I'm Aomi Obuse. I go to West High School. I'm going to be a senior, and I do quotes and sports.
Very good. Well, we're glad to have you. And also on the committee, we have Supervisor Al Matano, Supervisor Dennis O'Laughlin, and Supervisor Jerry Bullock. And we may be joined later by Supervisor Patrick Miles. With us this evening, also on the staff, our Zoning Administrator Roger Lane, Assistant Zoning Administrator Don Everson, and Director of Planning and Development Todd Violante. Anyone else from staff here? Okay. Some rules of the committee. The committee will be conducting this evening a public hearing on zoning conditions and conditional use permit applications. Any persons wishing to speak in favor or in opposition must fill out a white registration form and submit the sheet to the staff. That's one of these. If they're over there if you haven't had a chance to fill one out. When a petition is called, the petitioner will be asked to come to the table up here and address the committee. And please just address the committee. We ask that the petitioner state their name, address, the petition request, and the reasons for the request. The petitioner will be given up to 5 minutes to address the committee. The order of registrants is the petitioner or agent, and then any other persons wishing to speak in favor. Then persons wishing to speak in opposition. All speakers will be given 5 minutes to speak. If there is opposition, the petitioner or agent will be given an opportunity at the end of the public hearing to provide a rebuttal to the opposition. The petitioner will be given an additional 3 minutes. Again, all speakers will address the committee and not individuals in the audience. There will be no running debate. The committee will not take action on a petition until the applicable town has filed a report with the zoning division. The deadline for the towns to submit an action report to the county is the Thursday prior to the meeting date. Public testimony will be taken at this meeting. However, if town action has not been received, a decision will be made at a subsequent meeting. If there is public opposition on a petition, the petition will be postponed until the next meeting of the committee. This will give the petitioner and staff an opportunity to work out matters between parties. If the town's action has been submitted and there is no opposition to the petition, the petition will be referred to the county board. If the committee passes the petition unanimously, your presence at the county board may not be necessary. However, if the petition is controversial, it is advised that you attend the county board meeting. Committee action on a conditional use permit is the final action of the county. These applications are not referred to the county board. The next county board meeting is, do we have that date? I don't have that date. Roger, if you, and the next ZLR meeting. We'll get that to you.
July 11th is the ZLR.
July 11th is the next ZLR meeting, and I think our meeting is the 13th. It's, yeah, and the next county board is July 13th, I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
You can correct me if, okay. Okay, our first petition is rezone petition 11,139, the Esser Family Trust in the town of Cross Plains. Hi.
Hello, my name is Michelle Fuller. We own, it would be the RH2 in this map, and we are just rezoning We are just making the lots a little bit different size to position some new homes on there. We've already submitted, been to the planning commission meeting in our town, and we're just waiting, and it's been posted. It was postponed a month because we didn't get on the agenda, so we have to get it approved this month.
Okay.
But that's basically all we're doing is just rezoning them, making them a little bit larger than they were. They were very narrow before, so.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so. Nothing that I can think of.
Okay. I also have Don Esser.
Yes.
Did you want to say anything?
This is a separate issue, actually. Same last name, but two different rezones.
There's a lot of S's.
But I think I maybe put the wrong number on.
Okay, good. Because I have 11139 and okay.
140 is his.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good. All right, anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
We have not received town action from the town of Cross Plains yet.
I'll move postponement for lack of town action.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to postpone due to lack of town action. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, and we need to postpone because of lack of town action. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Okay, next is rezone petition 11,140, Donald Esser in the town of Springfield.
So we're going from Ag 1, we want to have a 5-acre lot on the non-tillable part of the land. This is next to part of a Esser family trust that with the sale of this property, we would then have enough income to buy the 40 next to it to keep it in the family. And there's been a little slight revision to the one that's up there. That still 5 acres. We moved it to the east 100 feet. That's a town road, also a right-of-way road that goes down there on my left side. So we wanted to limit access to that agricultural road, and we created a driveway onto the Cop Road.
That is part of your packet. It's called the revised CSM. So it's just shifting 66 feet.
Town has also made aware of that.
Yes,
Yes.
Last week they okayed the whole thing.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I think it's non-tillable land. I think that pretty much is.
Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Springfield has approved this petition with no conditions.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it is approved. Okay, next is rezone petition 11,141, the Holtzman Revocable Living Trust in the town of Deerfield.
Yes, hello, I'm John Holtzman. I live at Highway 134, 3221. I'm making an application to zone this for the purpose of obtaining a building permit for the barn. As I'm getting older, I would like to have a little more space and an elevator. And I've been working with Mr. Lane, and I understand that I am short a little bit in the number of square feet that I need for the Ag 2 classification and the ability to get a building permit. If you look at the map, you'll see that there's a strip that goes along the frontage, And that's the house I now live in. It's about 2,000 square feet. And I'm indifferent as to whether you include that and get enough extra square feet on the frontage to meet the requirements for a building permit for the barn. The barn is approximately 51 feet by 33 feet, and it's probably built somewhere around 1910, but it's in very, very good condition. And, well, I'm thinking that would make a very nice parcel at some point for selling, but I'd like to get the building permit so that we may sort of nibble our way along in progress of making it into a residence. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
We have not received town action from the town of Deerfield. The town of Deerfield has recently hired a new town clerk, so they're in the process of transitioning, and I believe Aaron probably gave you a call either yesterday or today.
I haven't had any calls that I
Okay.
was able to answer.
Okay.
Move
that-
postponement. Second.
So we have a motion and a second to postpone due to lack of town action. Any further discussion? Seeing
we
none,
need
all
to go
those...
through the town process.
Okay, from here, I do not need to come back here then for any further blessings?
If there's any sort of controversy or question, I recommend coming back. The next time we talk about it, it will be at a work meeting where you would only need to speak if we call on you.
Okay, well, so use whatever land you need to make it meet your requirements from the land along the front, and you can probably maybe extend it and extend the red line there in front of those two Lester buildings to the right to get what you need.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be able to work with the town. So I have a motion and a second to postpone due to lack of town action. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's postponed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. Okay, next is rezone 11,142, John Brennig and the town of Bristol.
Thank you. John Briney here, 1957 Greenway Road. We have been approved by the town of Bristol. We're just rezoning from Ag 1 to Ag 2 so that we can get we have to have a high enough door to put a fifth wheel trailer in. And because we're Ag 1, we're not allowed to get high enough. So we need a 14-foot door, and we only can go like 12, and we need the camper's 12, 11. I had to notify 3 neighbors, got them all to sign off on no problem with it. So that's all I have.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Bristol has approved this petition with no conditions.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have Forsyth Farms here this evening? So I don't have rezone 11,142. I don't have the form. Forsyth?
You mean 44.
11,144.
Well, there's no town action, so I'd move postponement for lack of town action. And I'll second that.
Okay, on petition 11,144, due to lack of town action, and we have the motion and the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's postponed. Next is rezone 11,145, Blue Vista Farm in the town of Oregon.
Hello, my name is Eric Grover. I reside at 742 Foxfield Road, Oregon. We have currently a 2-lot CSM, and we've actually are just asking to relay out the land as far as the zoning on it. It'll still be two building sites, an RH3 and an RH2, where we currently have 2 lots that are RH4. The purpose for doing this is just placement of the future home sites.
Okay, anything else?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Oregon has approved this petition with no conditions.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is rezone 11,146, the Leonard Revocable Trust in the town of Vienna.
Good evening, Dan Paulson here, with Paulson and Associates, the land surveyor representing both the Rawls family and the Leonard family. The reason for the zoning change is that they'd like to have a certified survey map recorded, and the reason for the certified survey map is for a lot line adjustment.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Vienna has approved this petition, conditioned on any land use changes being brought before the town plan commission.
I'll move approval with that condition.
I'll second, but I have a
Okay,
question.
we have a motion and a second. Discussion?
So, Roger, on that note of the condition, does that mean any land use change within the allowable uses of A2? Because, I mean, obviously anything else would require a rezone or a CUP, I suppose.
I would have to check with the town.
Okay, it just caught my eye because I assume that's what it is, but then it's not anything that county zoning is going to be able to enforce without compliance. So I support the motion. I just want to know that that's really for the town to control.
I believe the intent, the Rawls family is a large family, farming community, in the farming community, and they don't intend to ever put a home on there, and that's what they stated to the town. I think the town is just saying, all right, if you change that from farming into agricultural or into a residential, we'd like to know about it before you do it.
Okay, and if they did that, then there'd be a CSM, so that would go there.
That's a condition of this.
This is a CSM.
Oh,
You mean rezone?
right. Well, no.
No.
It
A2 would be
require
fine for a
rezone
residence.
that. So I missed that there's a CSM attached to this. I don't see a CSM that much
Any other?
packet. But, so there is a CSM.
There will be a CSM combining that small 3.4 acre parcel to a larger parcel, which is denoted as A2, and it'll be 36 acres in size.
Okay. But if they were to carve off a building site within that zoning district, then there'd be an additional CSM for that.
Correct.
So that's what I...
Correct.
Got it covered. All right, thanks.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is rezone petition 11,147, Paul Morrison in the town of Oregon.
Hi, Paul Morrison, 1239 South Fish Hatchery Road. And this is about a 38-acre parcel with a house in the northern half of it and a couple of small fields. And then the primary ag field is to the south. And we're dividing the primary ag field from the house and the small northern acreage.
Anything else?
I think that's it. When we do the CSM, there's also this little sliver of land at the road that is a separate tax parcel. Obviously, with the CSM, it makes sense to just combine that into one parcel. But that'll show up on the CSM.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Oregon approved this petition with the condition that the southerly lot be zoned to 8-4.
I'll move approval with the condition.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve with the condition. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved. Do we have anyone from rezone petition 11,148? Which is Thomas Scheller in the town of Deerfield?
The representative is in the hospital.
Oh.
So they're
Not going to be here today. So
That's correct.
future meeting.
Move postpone. And there's also no town action.
And if there's any here, any persons in opposition, possibly
Oh.
you get that over with, and then postpone.
I don't have any forms. Is anyone here for rezone 11,148 Thomas Schaller, Town of Deerfield? Okay.
And I'll second.
Oh, didn't you make the motion?
Supervisor Walker.
You made the motion to postpone due to lack of town action, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It is postponed due to lack of town action. Okay, next is 11,149 Gel Sunny Ridge LLC, Town of Blue Mounds.
Hi, I'm Dennis Jelly. I'm the owner of the Jelly Sunny Ridge LLC, and we're petitioning to create a lot for a home site of 2 acres, and it's on our Jelly Road, Township Road, and then would come off onto that road, or would enter into that from that road. And it's a 2-acre lot. So currently, years ago, it was a pasture. Now it's been a field for the last few years. Been very poor soil, and my daughter is interested in building a house there, and so it's going to be her lot.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Great. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Blue Mounds has approved this petition with no conditions.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it is approved. Next is rezone petition 11,150, Susan K. Barber in the town of Dunn.
Robert's just out in the hall. They'll be right in.
You want to say something to them? To get them to tell them where? If you just introduce yourself.
I'm Paul Schlevy, and this is Robert Brownell with me. And we're actually representing the Buellongs tonight, Adam and Brittany, who have been making the petition on this. We have worked closely with county and town staff, and we know that we have several issues that we still need to resolve in regard to building elevations and additional landscaping. But we were hoping to look for a conditional approval tonight on the actual developments.
Anything else you want to add?
No, that's really, I think the staff report is pretty comprehensive.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
This will be the first planned unit development in the town of Dunn, and we're working closely with the developer with regards to getting this unique situation correct. Currently, it's an abandoned restaurant, and it'll be turned into climate-controlled warehousing. The property adjacent to the lake is basically an abandoned trailer park, which is going to be turned into a single-family residence, and then the entire area be restored prairie and wetlands. So staff is working closely, and we have identified 8 issues still outstanding that need to be addressed. The town of Dunn has not approved this yet.
Move postponement. Second.
So we have a motion and a second to postpone due to lack of town action. Any further discussion? Supervisor Miles?
Yeah, I just want to say, I know the town is interested in seeing the site redeveloped, and especially in a much more sightly manner than the current state of affairs.
Sure.
But that being said, there are some pretty significant issues that are not just by county staff, but by the town. And we don't typically do conditional approvals of rezones, especially if we don't have town action. So just to explain. Thank you.
And we had a presentation on this in the past, so
Right.
we're familiar with it. So
Right.
I appreciate hearing the latest with the town, the proposal. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of postponement due to lack of town action, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone no? And it's postponed.
Thanks so much.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Okay, next is rezone petition 11,151, complete phytochemical solutions in the town of Christiana.
Good evening. My name is Christian Kruger, and I'm owner of Complete Phytochemical Solutions. We're seeking to have a change in the deed restrictions of the C2 property in the town of Christiana to allow us to operate a research facility on the site.
Anything else you'd like to add? Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
This petition has been approved by the town of Christiana with conditions which revise the deed restrictions limiting the land uses on the property.
I'll make a motion to approve this with the conditions. Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve with town conditions. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it is approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is rezone petition 11,152, Kurt Leslie in the town of Vermont.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kurt Leslie, and my land is located in the town of Vermont, Black Earth, at Blue Mounds and Pleasant Valley Road. So I'm asking if I could rezone to A2A to run a small organic farm. The A2A gives me more options and possible use, conditional use permits, such as accessory buildings.
Okay, anything else? Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Vermont has approved this petition with no conditions.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve. And Supervisor Miles.
Question for Roger. Under the staff suggestions or staff part of the report, it says there shall be ag activities present prior to construction. Is there some question whether or not whether there's ag use?
Yes, in order to construct an accessory building on this property, actually it'll be a principal building. There has to be some type of agricultural use on the property, and I guess you're preparing the land for crops and everything like that prior to...
Yeah, for 2 years, right. Okay. So we're looking for an accessory building. It's just difficult to go there and to farm that without a building. So we put a driveway in. We have a plan to build a home there also.
So, given the statement, is there some desire for a condition to...
I think that the condition would be suitable just to make sure that there's agricultural activities on the property prior to the agricultural building being constructed.
I didn't make a motion.
That's fine.
Okay, any further discussion? So you have the motion is
To approve with the condition.
with the staff condition.
Correct.
Of ensuring that there's agricultural production prior to the building of the building, accessory building. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is rezone petition 11,153, and you're back up here.
I'm back up here. You had two Esters to start, you might as well have two Paulsons
There
in
you go.
between. Once again, Dan Paulson with Paulson and Associates here representing the Getchell family. They have an existing property with their home on it, and they are asking for a zoning change in order to divide that property into 3 separate lots, creating 2 additional home sites.
Anything else? Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Verona has approved this petition with a few conditions.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. Discussion? Supervisor Miles.
Just another quick question, given the staff comment on getting documentation from the city of Verona. Has that been done? I know that I think there were minutes in here that referenced it being referred there with recommendation of approval, but what is the status of that?
I believe both the town and the city are in favor of this. They've had several discussions, and it is outside, the actual, I believe so.
Okay.
So it is within the extraterritorial review, but the city has indicated that they have no objection.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. Next, we have CUP petition 2381. Joel Hogan.
Good evening. I'm Brooks Feckhelm. I'm with Tree Riley Construction. I'm the acting agent for the permit.
Okay. Did you want to tell us about it?
We're looking for a conditional use permit for a temporary batch plant to produce concrete for projects on the I-39, with stop projects on the I-39 corridor. This particular site, we're going to be utilizing the sand from the quarry, as well as it's very close to the project, so it'll limit our haul, limit the materials that have to come in. This is an overall good fit for producing the concrete needed for the DOT projects.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. I have registered in support is Joel Hagen. And then also wishing to speak in support, John Halverson.
Just available to answer questions if you had any.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The staff has approved this, or I'm sorry, the town of Pleasant Springs has approved this petition with two conditions. That the duration of the permit to be to June 17 to December 31, 2019, and Dean County reviews conditions and provides additional restrictions as seen necessary. Staff is suggesting 12 conditions be placed on this petition. One item of concern would be outdoor lighting, because that would be at night. Staff would suggest that a lighting plan be presented to staff prior to the operation to ensure that basically the lights don't blind people on Highway N.
I'll move approval of 12 conditions and lighting plan be submitted to.
Yeah, we would just have to submit the lighting plan prior to using it at night.
You're okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Okay, next is CUP 2382, Petite Properties in the town of Albion.
Ginger Hageman with Pettit Properties. The property at 318 Godey Road, Edgerton, Wisconsin, the town of Albion. It's LC1, and we're looking to get a conditional use permit to park and to store vehicles for sale with our dealership.
Anything else? Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Okay, if we have wishing to speak in opposition, Daryl Good? Okay, so if you could just, thank you.
My name is Daryl Good. I'm not really speaking in opposition. There's just some certain positions that, some questions that I had. I'm just a landowner right next door in the RH1. And I just wanted to make sure that, I live there, and I just wanted to make sure, and I've spoke with them before about what we can do to maybe make a buffer zone or an area where I don't I don't know what's going to happen with the land there, so I'm just concerned. I think I spoke with Roger on this, so I'm not really in opposition. I'm just a concerned neighbor.
Okay.
The conditions do address your concerns that the owner of the property is willing to put up screening along the RH as required by LC1. The vehicle storage area is limited to 150 feet in this area, so it has a true buffer area. Let's see here. It's limited to outdoor storage of equipment, machinery, trucks, and vehicles associated with Pettit trucks and equipment. The screening, which I also stated, the 150-foot parking area. There's going to be no outdoor lighting. Let's see. The property shall be maintained in a clean and orderly manner, and the CUP expires upon the sale of the property to an unrelated third party.
No problem.
Good with it?
Yes.
Roger, could I also add, just specifically, the condition on screening specifies that it be planted evergreens at least 6 feet in width and initially landscaped with 4-foot tall evergreen shrubs.
Yeah, it's either a fence or a live buffer. So there is an option there, and that's exactly right out of the ordinance.
Ms. Hageman, you have a chance if you wanted to add or say anything.
No, I just think we kind of covered everything with the limiting the parking area and putting the fence up.
Sir, are you good with everything you've heard so far?
In the vehicles, will they be maintained and operational?
Not all will be, because we buy things that need fixed. Sometimes we sell them as is, condition and money, not working. So I mean, I can't guarantee that everything out there is going to work. I mean, it's, we buy and sell and fix them, buy them broken, fix them, sell them. Sometimes they will sell not repaired.
To address your concerns?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Matano.
I had a question for Roger. I'm just trying to get the lay of the land. What is the feature that looks like a reverse L from top to bottom on the property and then front?
The reverse,
the lighted area.
Oh, this pathway here?
It's no longer there.
Is that pathway?
It's not
yes,
there anymore.
and actually it looks significantly different now than the 2014. DOT with the I-39 project, there's actually a gravel place right here. They actually took out a lot of gravel for the
ramp there.
For the ramp, yeah, so it's quite excavated there.
It's just, I thought it looked almost like a bridge. In any case, I was just trying to interpret the photo. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just probably a gravel pathway in 2014.
And it's gone now.
It looks significantly different.
What's it been replaced with again?
They actually took a gravel deposit out of there and created the off-ramp, and now it's just about 10 feet lower and all gravel. So it's a self-made display area.
I'll move approval of the 6 proposed conditions.
Second.
Question, what did the town do?
Approve the petition with no conditions.
Okay, you moved approval with the conditions, or?
I think it was Miles Mattek.
Miles Mattek.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to approve.
Sorry, I thought we had already gotten set.
Yeah, we've had for one court.
Yeah, we're all, did everybody get all their questions answered? Okay. And we have a motion to approve with conditions. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved. Okay, next is the proposed revocation of conditional use permit 2092. And before, I just want to make sure that people, that we have them registered for the correct. So we are, before us is the potential revocation. So wishing to speak in opposition is John Steinauer and Ron Tockenberg.
Ma'am, is there anyone speaking in favor of the petition of revoke?
I'm getting there.
Well, they're the moving party. Wouldn't they go first? They're in favor?
What I have these pieces of paper in front of me,
Yeah.
and I'm going through them right now. Because sometimes people say they're speaking in support.
Oh, we're in opposition. If you just say who's in opposition, who's support.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, I'm confirming, and I think you're Mr. Tottenberg, correct?
I'm Trachtenberg.
Trachtenberg?
And Mrs. Donovan.
Right, and I just called your names
Yes.
as in wishing to speak in opposition.
Correct.
And I'm going to continue with the rest of this pile here to make sure that people who fill out the form know that if they say they're in support, it's support of revocation, and if they're in opposition, they don't want it to be revoked. That's what I'm doing right now.
No, I just want to make sure we weren't going to speak first, and I did tell some of our people that
Right.
exact issue, how to register.
Good. So I just want to be sure since I have this paperwork in front of me.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So wishing to speak in support of revocation, Vicki Anderson? Right. And wishing to speak in support, John Rosenbaum?
Yep.
And registered in opposition, Richard Bloomfield? You don't want it revoked. Okay. Wish to speak in opposition, Bob Schultz? Don't want it revoked. Wish to speak in opposition, Dan Allen?
I wish to speak in support of the revocation.
Okay. You would like to support revocation?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm doing this. Thank you. Okay. Wishing to speak in opposition, Alice Allen?
And I filled mine out here also. I
Okay.
appreciate you doing that.
You would, thank you. You would like to speak in support of revocation?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff Hilliard? Yes, and you would like it not to be revoked?
Right.
Okay. Tom Wooler? You would like it not to be revoked?
That's correct, and I'd like to speak in opposition as well.
Oh, yeah, registered, but you want to speak. You know, I'll probably go through them again, just to make sure everybody's clear. And Eugene Wooler? You would like to have it not be revoked? Okay. And Matt Schwentnick? Matt? Never mind, it's the next one. Okay. Okay, Mr. Trottenberg or Mr. Steiner, would you like to speak?
Well, again, this is the issue I raised at the wrong time. But the people who are in favor of the motion usually speak first. In this case, the people who are in favor of the revocation. So that would be the two town people, wouldn't it normally?
Actually, we've already had this before us. So Supervisor Miles, with your experience, and Roger, we had this proposed revocation before us January or
February.
Well, was that more of a report and notice that the may be coming before us, so now we have the public hearing?
Yes, there was, There was, that meeting was to see if there was just cause to have a public hearing for revocation. And at that meeting, there was cause to hold a public hearing for revocation, and it was set 3 months after.
So it's a public hearing, so we have speakers and support and opposition. My question is, I don't recall if our committee rules speak to consideration of revocation and a public hearing, where regular zoning public hearing items, if there's opposition, committee rule is to postpone, but with the revocation, is that the same?
Well, the way it goes, that I guess the landowner has a right to rebut things that are said. So I believe the landowner would state their case why it should not be revoked. Anybody in opposition or in support of it being revoked, and then there should be a rebuttal, a chance for a rebuttal by the landowner.
Right.
I guess
I
that would be
understand
the
that.
appropriate order.
I understand that as far as the speaking order, but my question is, I don't recall that our committee rules distinguish a public hearing item that is consideration of revocation. If right, if there's opposition at the public hearing, revocation, why wouldn't there be opposition? Do we, by committee rule, automatically postpone? It's unique because it's different than the others, because there's been a public hearing to approve the CP in the first place, so that's why I raised the question.
I think the rules and procedures are silent on that issue.
So then this would be up to the chair. Or we can make a motion.
Well, I'm going to, it is a proposed revocation. And when we did meet before, we heard from Mr. Trachtenberg and Mr. Steinhauer, and we did hear about the potential for finding a different place. We talked about working with the neighbors. So I will start with Mr. Steinhauer, and if you would like to have Mr. Trachtenberg up at the same time, that's fine.
Hi, my name is John Steinhauer. I live at 1861 Sandridge Court. As of about a year ago, we've been running a full-time repair shop. This is actually my first year having no W-2, so it'd be my first. Previous was my first year. I know there's been concerns about the number of vehicles and so forth being at my property. I do own 9 vehicles. And during our course of having normal operation, I have on occasion over exceeded my two car limit, not intentionally. Sometimes the person I asked to pick it up didn't show up, and ended up being a vehicle or more. But the reason why I went to a full-time at home was my insurance at the place I was working. My insurance got so high, and we had to use it. The deductibles were so high. I was better off going on my own and using some assistance for public assistance at that time. So what I ended up doing is, since my conditional use permit allowed me to operate from 9 to 9, I went ahead and started doing stuff at home. And in the meantime, I've been looking for another place to do work keep the business afloat and going. So,
Okay.
I'd like to go through a few things. My name is Ron Trachtenberg. I'd like to talk a little bit first about Roger's report. And Roger's report says the conditions of approval includes the fact there's supposed to be no more than two vehicles on the premises. Actually, it says no more than 2 vehicles for repair. And as Mr. Steinhauer has testified, he has some 9 vehicles. And if you look at the photos, from the years that Roger has had, we assume, because those were many years ago, most of those automobiles were his. And while he may have gone maybe to a 3rd vehicle on occasion, it was because somebody didn't pick it up. It's not that we were stacking up automobiles for repair. As far as the issue of having junk on the premises, what the inspector saw that one day was miscellaneous items out that was going to be used to build a gate, I believe. So there's some welding equipment, there was some steel stored, and the inspector assumed that, it was out there. It was simply junk. There's no junk stored outside as junk. The other thing is, in the 8-9 years of it operating, there was one inspection with one report written up. And there was no action taken on that report, which presumably means that we were re-inspected and everything was found to be within the 4 corners of the ordinances, and except for the issue I want to discuss in a moment, within the 4 corners of the conditional use permit. Now, there's been a question of whether or not the operation of the business on a full-time basis is a violation of the conditional use permit. The conditional use permit doesn't talk about limited hours, except from 9 to 9, and doesn't talk about the number of cars that can be done, that were repaired. Now, the business started off as a hobby and for friends and relatives, and it did grow because of the advantages of Obamacare. Never thought I'd get Obamacare into a zoning hearing. But it grew. But again, it's not in violation. And if you look at what the conditions of approval are, the conditions of approval state specifically last page. The hours of operation shall be from 9 to 9. Hours of operation may be amended in the event of neighborhood complaints. So far, we're aware of one neighborhood complaint that he doesn't like the expansion of the business, but he's not asked for a specific reduction of the hours. Mr. Allen is the only person who's complained. And if you look at his letter, it simply says he doesn't like the fact that the business expanded. We are more than willing to go back to the town and talk about a reduction in the hours. I contacted the town chairman myself after the last hearing. He declined to meet with me, which I think was wrong. But we think the proper remedy is not to revoke the conditional use permit, but to discuss the limitation of hours if, in fact, it is the hours that is causing any complaints. I said we did one neighbor, and he writes a letter. He doesn't like the fact that the business expanded. He considers Mr. Steinhauer did wrong in 2008 when he operated the business without a conditional use permit. He got the conditional use permit, and by the way, that's not unusual for that situation to happen, and that the business has expanded. But there's no complaint of noise, there's no complaint of dust, there's no complaint of traffic, and there's one issue of weight, that Mr. Steinhauer has a trailer, and that trailer is within the limitations of town road standards, where, by the way, the town garbage truck is actually over those standards. So there is no factual basis for revocation other than the business has expanded, and in that regards, the CUP has a self-remedy that should be utilized before revocation.
You have about 30 seconds.
Okay, I have a long letter of support from my neighbor. I'd like Roger to put it in the record. And I have a very short one from Linda Peckin. My name is Linda Peckin. I live at 1873 Sandridge Court, etc. Mr. Steinhauer is my neighbor. I personally don't have a problem with John working on cars from his home as long as he abides by the rules and regulations of the current permit. I found John very accommodating to deal with. If there's any concerns or issues on his business that may affect me directly, I don't have any objection to him continuing the business. So with that, we'll come back up after the other presentation for rebuttal.
Okay, also, against the revocation, Eugene Waller.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Eugene Waller. I live at 2123 Town Hall Road, Town of Springdale. I also have a business that I run from that area. It's an agricultural business. And I use John's services exclusively for all my equipment, whether it be farm equipment or trucks for hauling honey and so forth. So I would like very much to see this group take that into consideration, that John is, in fact, helping our township, and not only financially, but also very easily, that we can have a service that close and that handy for us, and someone that really cares about a business getting first-time service.
Thank you. Anything else?
No.
All right, thank you. Tim Waller, you registered against the revocation. Did you want to speak?
Yes, please. Good evening. My name is Timothy Waller. First of all, thank you so much for having this presentation tonight. I'd like to speak a little bit about Mr. Steinhauer's character. Knew John growing up as a child. After serving 20 years in the Air Force, returning back home here to Wisconsin, I was thrilled to find out that John was not only a wonderful mechanic who worked in Madison, but then decided at a certain point that he wanted to start a small business. Incredibly in favor of small businesses and what they present and what they offer. Mr. Steinhauer is a very conscientious individual who does wonderful work, and I'd like to speak in opposition of the revocation. Like you mentioned, the cost of insurance led him to wanting to start a small business. The time that I've been back since 2015, I know that he's only tried to do what he has needed to in order to make sure that he's growing his business in an effective and a proper way. Mr. Steinhauer's character is without reproach, and I'd just like to have the committee understand and know that.
Okay, thank you. Also registered in opposition to the revocation, Jeff Hilliard. And did you want to speak? You don't?
I would.
Okay.
My name is Jeff Hilliard. I live on 8586 Davis Street, which is just a half mile over the ridge from John. I'm a regular customer of John. I have several vehicles of my own. I've been going to John for years, and it's always been great work, but his property is, in my opinion, always neat. If anything, in the last year, it's just become neater. Things are tucked away. I was one of those people that sometimes dropped off a vehicle because it was convenient for me, like a day or two ahead of time, so it sat there until I understood that, we're trying to keep, a limit on some of those things. So, if anything, I drive past the road all the time. I can look up and see everything, and it's pretty spotless. There's not extra vehicles around anymore. So, if anything, I would just say if you look at it now, what more really could you want about it? So for a small business. So.
Okay, thank you. Also wishing to speak against the revocation, Bob Schultz.
Bob Schultz. Sorry, my voice is a little scratchy. My wife and I reside at 1843 Sandridge Court, which is located at the end of Sandridge Court. We have 3 children, 2 of whom still live at home. Over the years, we have been busy driving our children and ourselves to many activities, and we drive past John's property several times a day. For many years, we didn't know that John had auto repair on his property. It wasn't until some friends mentioned that they were bringing their vehicle to John for repair that we became aware of his business. There are no signs, no lights, or any indication by the activity on his property that would bring it to anyone's attention. All that could be seen is his large shed, which could be used for any number of personal activities. I would venture to guess that very few of the limited number of vehicles that drive on Sandridge Court are aware that John has an auto repair shop in the shed. The property is always well maintained and presentable. There aren't more vehicles or trailers viewable in the driveway than many of the other driveways on the street, so it doesn't draw any particular attention. It seems that a person would have to spend considerable time watching the property to observe activity regarding the business. We have never been aware of any noise coming from the property other than children's voices enjoying a summer afternoon. We can hear the traffic on Highway G and the sound of an idling Harley-Davidson motorcycle from elsewhere on Sandridge Court, so if there was noise emanating from John's shed, we would be able to hear it. There has never been a problem with traffic from John's property. We travel Sandridge Court frequently and have not noticed any increase in traffic or concerns when we take walks to Highway G. We walk our pets sometimes without a leash, not having to fear for their safety because the road is very quiet and not highly traveled. We feel that the majority of the neighborhood does not have issues with John having a conditional use permit. For us, it has been a very positive thing. We are able to take our vehicles to John, walk home, and walk back when he is finished. It's difficult to find a good mechanic. We have been very impressed with John's ability to diagnose a problem correctly the first time. He has worked on our cars as well as lawnmower and snowblower. Not having to keep a trailer to haul the lawnmower for repair is a nice benefit. The revocation of John's conditional use permit would definitely have an impact on us. We also have no concern regarding our property value due to John's maintaining his conditional use permit. If John did not keep the property so well maintained, or he had junk vehicles stored outside in view like an auto salvage yard, we would have concerns. In conclusion, if a decision is made to revoke the conditional use permit, there would be few noticeable differences from keeping the permit. I hope the benefits of John maintaining his permit will be considered in this decision. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Registered in opposition to the revocation, Richard Bloomfield.
I just wanted to register.
Okay, just want to make sure. Anyone else wishing to speak against the revocation? And did you get a chance to fill out a form?
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, thank you.
My name is Noel Hutton. I live on County Road A, a couple miles from John's place. Don't know John for 20 years. I know him for about 9 months. Took my car there first time. He was very honest and dependable. He could have taken me for a ride because I didn't know what the problem was. He was very honest, said what it was, did the work, charged a very fair price. And I just think as a small business, we need more people like him. And we, as the government, needs to promote small businesses and not hinder them. So I would definitely oppose his revocation.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak against the revocation? Okay, wishing to speak in support of revocation, Vicki Anderson.
Hello, may I and a member of the town board?
Yes, please. Yep, definitely.
Introduce yourself first.
Sure. So I was here in February, and I was at that time the clerk. I'm no longer the clerk. I retired in April, but since I've been involved since the get-go, I thought it would be appropriate for me to be here. And this is John Rosenbaum, the newly elected town board supervisor, but he was on the plan commission.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been on the plan commission in Springdale for about 10 years, so I'm familiar with the history of this situation. And I've also just recently been elected to the town board. Just a couple introductory comments. If you take a look at the map, keep in mind this is a residential area. Our town land use plan does not support this type of full-time business in a residential area. Mr. Lane tells us that full-time auto repair business should really be zone C2, and our town does not support C2 in a residential area. So it's just totally out of place. Now, the history here is that Mr. Steinauer put together a business plan back in 2008 when this operation first came into existence. And in writing, he indicated that his normal hours of operation would be Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. after his regular job. And he was saying that this is only going to be part-time. I'm only going to operate this business for the repair of family vehicles and close friends' vehicles. And again, this is his business plan from 2008. So I guess that's the first point that I want to make is it's grown. Now the good news is John's apparently a very good mechanic. I mean, you've heard that. We don't want him to go out of business, but we just feel that the business has grown to the point where it should be in an appropriately zoned location. This residential location is not appropriate. And setting this kind of precedent in our town, I'm very concerned about it because we could have other people in residential areas that would say, oh, well, I'd like to operate a full-time auto repair business in my residential area. And so I'm very concerned about that precedent. I do want to make a comment that I was at the meeting. I wasn't a supervisor when the board voted to revoke the CUP, but it was a unanimous vote back in February, understanding the entire history. So it was a unanimous vote by the town board. So we're just looking for your support of the town board of Springdale. So I guess those are my comments in a nutshell. Vicki, did you want to add some items?
Yes, I just wanted to add a little bit about the history because when we talk about the 2008 communication in which the town received the document as well as Dane County that it was going to be a hobby just for family and friends, limited hours, the town takes people at their word. And then because it was presented that way, that would qualify as a limited family business. And the notion was, okay, if you're only going to be doing it when you have a little time, then just 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 p.m. at night. You know, just when you have time to get out there in your building and tinker, that would be accepted. If it had been presented factually as the type of business that was intended, it would never have been granted a limited family business. It would never have been granted a CUP. You know, and then in addition, the other aspects of the timeline, in 2008, it was when it was a violation. It was brought to the attention. It was brought to the attention of the town and Dane County zoning that this business was operating there. That was when it was investigated. It probably started in about 2005 when the accessory building was constructed and the equipment was put inside, but we did not know about that until after the fact. And then we moved forward to 2016 when, after the CUP had been granted for this hobby-like business, there was other violations. And then John told me himself that he quit his full-time job at Simdon's in maybe 2013, 2014. So it had been operating who knows how long as a full-time business with, you know, John acknowledged to me that he knew he was not in compliance, but, you know, he just carried on. So to emphasize that the town would have never granted the limited family CUP if it had been forthright that this was going to be more of a business operation, not a hobby of sorts. The other piece is that as people have acknowledged that John is an excellent mechanic, I think Sinden Motors liked him to work there. He would be able to start his business in the properly zoned location, and I'm sure have dedicated customers that would want to give him the business. When people talk about the support to the town, there's no real financial value or input to the town. The town does not make money off of a business there, but our plan does support businesses, and then the certain areas of town where you could have a C1 would be Mount Vernon. But just as one individual, Mr. Roger Dish had submitted a letter that I believe you have received.
It's before us on our desk, the email, and we received an email from you. Roger forwarded your email that you sent. So
The point being that that's a businessman, as well as the other car repair businesses in the town of Springdale. They've had to look at the plan, follow the plan, be properly zoned, follow the standards of operation. So we have a document, the plan that says this is what's supposed to happen in the town, and we try to apply it consistently across the board. So Roger Dish's point was he had to find land that was zoned appropriately. He has to have the safe commercial building. He has to meet all the standards for operating this kind of business. And then in the case of John, he does not.
And again, we're not looking for Mr. Steinhauer to go out of business. We just feel like it's grown to the point where it should be in an appropriate location, not in this residential area. And I'd just like to emphasize, if this revocation is not agreed to by the county, I'm very concerned about the precedent it sets in Springdale.
Thank you. Okay, also wishing to speak in support of revocation, Dan Allen.
My name is Dan Allen, and I reside at 1851 Sandridge Court, next door to the Steinhauers. First of all, thank you for letting me sit up here. Everybody talks fine, I just don't hear good, and my hearing aids act up in here, so if I happen to need to ask someone to repeat themselves, bear with me. Thank you. Some of the things that I have to say, I'm going to try and keep it from being too emotional, but it's an emotional issue to us. I just wanted to get a clarification on something. The last time in February that we met, it was decided to meet again for this public hearing, and the 4 months would allow Mr. Steinhauer to seek a different location, seek out employment.
If you would just address your comments to the committee, that it was discussed that night as an option, but it wasn't you will, it was discussed as an option or presented as options.
Okay, well, I wasn't able to hear what Mr. Steinhauer said as to whether or not there was any success in that.
It hasn't been stated tonight, I
okay.
believe.
I understand that during this past 4 month period, that the Steinhauer property was inspected every 2 weeks. Is that correct?
If you could, again, would just have your questions and comments to the committee.
I beg your pardon.
It's okay.
Is that correct?
Roger?
Yes.
Yes.
Were there any violations noted during that 2 week period?
Roger?
Every time it was inspected?
No.
Then I contend that that sort of proves that Mr. Steinhauer has been and is capable of compliance all along, but he chose not to be concerned with it until the permit was revoked by the township. And that would fall into line with the kind of reasoning that he's displayed all along this history. we're talking about a man who in 2005, 2006 built a large commercial building with a hoist, or maybe more than one in it, and proceeded to run a commercial auto repair and sales business from it. There was no discussion with neighbors. He just did it. And my contention is not so much the violations of the conditions of his permit, but how he goes about operating in this residential area. Now, surely, such a gesture as building this building, I thought to myself, well, surely that had to be approved by the township, right? No, it wasn't. And I don't think Mr. Steinhauer's intent was ever in doubt in his mind. He continued to operate in this manner until September of '08. Now, finally, a complaint emerged, and upon inspection by this same zoning and land regulation department, he was ordered to stop operation of the business. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, you mean I need proper approval to do this? That was the impression that I got from him. So Mr. Steinhauer, having been caught breaking the law, then applied to the Springdale Township for a conditional use permit. His business plan proposal stated that the auto repair business was a limited part-time operation for the repair of close friends and families' automobiles. And I was against the issuance of that permit based on how Mr. Steinhauer had displayed
You have 1 minute remaining.
his entitlement mentality. That included a convenient dose of ignorance of the laws of the county and township. Constructing this large commercial building on his property was, to me, a clear deviation from your normal residential auxiliary outbuilding, at least in our residential neighborhood. I think the building is an eyesore, and I use that analogy of trying to fit the stepsister's big, fat, ugly foot into the glass slipper. It just doesn't fit. Mr. Steinhauer's plan, in his words, painted a picture of a very limited auto repair business. Only part-time, since I maintain a full-time job, I have no intention to expand, etc., etc. For these reasons, the township voted to issue the CUP, but put forth certain simple conditions.
Your
I've
time
already
is
put
up. If you could
myself.
just wrap it up. Your time is up.
I'm wrapping up.
Good.
Okay. Is that all right?
Sentence.
Okay. I contend that Mr. Steinhauer never really intended to operate a limited part-time hobby-type business.
Okay. Thank you.
And I question, is that point being made by the fact that are we to believe that Steiny's Repair
Okay,
and
Mr.
LLC
We can
website
get you some more
is there
questions.
to remind his close friends and family of his address and phone number? I don't think so.
Alice, are you ready?
And thank you. I
You're welcome.
appreciate.
You're welcome.
I apologize for the emotion.
It's okay. Understandable. Alice? Alan?
Yeah, Alice Allen, 1851 Sandridge Court. I'm Dan's wife. And I guess I would just like to say I'm sure that Mr. Steinhauer is a wonderful guy. He has a nice family. I wish him a lot of luck with his business. I really do. But I also think we are on a residential dead-end road that is very nice, and I'd like it to stay that way. It did get to a point where, and I am not kidding, there was a huge big bus sitting there for several days. There was a huge big dump truck sitting there for several days. I don't know if he was repairing it, somebody was going to pick it up, I don't know. And, I think some days you could count as many as 16 vehicles, all different shapes and sizes. I think it should be moved to where you run a business. If I wanted a house in a business area, I would have looked, I don't know where, but it's a residential area. And also, I can personally say that when it would be late at night, 9 o'clock at night, I don't know if our other neighbors had this happen, but we had people come down our driveway in their trucks and vehicles asking if we were the repair place, which was kind of scary, actually. We live in the country. I don't know these people, and I'm answering the door. What? I don't know. So that's all I want to say. I think it should be moved to a business area, and I do wish him lots of luck. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support of the revocation? Okay, Mr. Steinhauer, you have time for a rebuttal.
If you don't mind, I'll
come on up.
First of all, I apologize, Ms. Zatlin, that somebody drove up her driveway and asked if they were the repair service. I would just mention, it'd be nice if we could have a little sign in front sometimes. That's one of the drawbacks and pluses. To bring the committee up to date, we have been looking for a place to relocate. We did identify a place. We submitted 2 offers on it. But there's a family dispute involved in that family, and that property is still in play between a market sale and a ne'er-do-well son sale, unfortunately. Mr. Steinhauer has also identified another property, and we hope in the next few days to have a bid on that property as far as what it would cost to construct a new building to operate the business out of. So ultimately, and we know we have to eventually, we do plan on relocating the business for our sanity and for the Allen sanity. As far as any type of rebuttal, I would simply note that other than the few instances Mrs. Allen has testified, none of the neighbors are in opposition to the conditional use permit that I'm aware of. They're all in support of the conditional use permit. Nobody has stated that as a practical matter, the operation of the business has negatively impacted on their lives. A garage that's not a limited family business would not be allowed in the zoning district. A garage which is a family limited business with a CUP is an allowed use as a conditional use in this district. And that's what we went in for. When Mr. Steinhauer applied for the conditional use, it was his intent to operate it as a part-time basis. As the economy changed, as health insurance changed, the business grew. But it grew within the hours permitted in the conditional use. He didn't go outside the hours of the conditional use. And I would still say to you that if there are neighborhood complaints, and this includes the complaint with the town that somehow we've gone beyond the purview, the correct remedy would be to amend the hours of operation. And as I said, I made contact with the town chairman to talk about that issue after the last meeting. He declined to meet with me. First time, actually second time a town chairman has refused to talk to me. The first time was Ed Tyler, town of Middleton, because I was the alderman for the west side of Madison. And I'm still willing to meet with the town. And Mr. Steinhauer is willing to meet with the town to talk about more limited hours of operation to try to bring this thing down to a scale that the town feels comfortable with. But just on the basis of this record, to rescind the conditional use permit when a man's trying to earn a living and maintain insurance for his family, given the difficulty in finding a place to relocate, we're still trying to, would be draconian. So I would ask that you basically refer this thing to a future meeting to give us the opportunity to meet with the town to talk about more limited hours. So with that, if there's specific questions, Mr. Steinhauer or I would be glad to answer them.
Supervisor Laughlin.
I have one question.
Sure.
John,
come up.
John, I heard you say you had 9 registered cars in your name.
I have 5 registered cars and 4 non-registered cars which have been removed from the property.
All right, you have 5 registered cars.
5 registered.
How many registered drivers in your family? 2. So you have 3 additional cars parked outside?
3 cars. I have 2 cars. There's a total of 4 on the property right now. The 5th car that's registered is not on the property.
It's not on the property. Can I ask you why you have that many registered cars in your name? Are you trying to sell them, move them?
I've had, I have a red Grand Am that I've had since early 2000s. I had a minivan that my wife originally bought, and a Acadia that she upgraded for him. I just didn't want to get rid of the van because it gets good gas mileage and it does what I need to do. You can throw stuff in it. The last vehicle is a 2007 it's a 2500 HD, which I pull the trailers with. It's more of a, I use this for a purpose vehicle, and it's got low mileage on it.
So the last 4 months, you've been able to hide those. I'm going to use the word hide. It's a good word. We can, don't take it the wrong way. So that they're not outside the building. Is that correct?
I mean, no, the pickup truck sits up in front of my
that's fine.
Garage, and the car and the van sit in my residence garage.
And
the other one sits in the residence garage.
Okay, all right. One more, may I?
Go ahead.
Please. These are your neighbors. And I looked at the pictures. There's 19 big. How big are the trees that line your property? How tall are they?
Anywhere from 10 to 20, 25 feet.
High.
Okay. Wait a minute. I want to give you a picture.
So you're retired military?
No, sir.
No, his gentleman who spoke is his neighbor.
Oh,
Tim Waller?
Tim is.
Tim Waller is.
So these are the trees that block your.
This is the trees that block the property between mine, Mr. Allen's, and this south.
Right. John, I take what you said about trying to find a. First of all, let me ask you this: how do you feel about relocating your business?
I feel I need to relocate it.
You do. That's very good for me to hear. How would you feel if I said that I made a recommendation to this body that, do you think there's a possibility, John, of finding a suitable location within 6 months by the 1st of 2018?
I talked to a builder.
Yeah.
Or I'm in the process right now. He's getting me an estimate of
Yeah.
actually constructing a building. He said he couldn't get it done for today. He said he'd get it done for Wednesday. He says it's going to be hard pressed to get it done by the end of the year. That's what he says. He thinks he can do it, but the property we're trying to get it on to may need to be rezoned.
Okay,
also,
all right, I understand all that. But if we said you've got 6 or 8 months, let's use 8 months, and at the end of 8 months, you got a building that's 3/4 of the way done, you got all the permits done, you got the zoning done, look, we're not going to shut you down, you understand? Would that be a fair and equitable thought?
Yes, it would be fair.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion.
I think we need to have some discussion.
Oh, okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. Other questions for any of the speakers tonight?
Actually, I'd like to hear from the town chair or the town representatives.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not the town chair.
Oh,
I am on the board.
Okay, the town representatives, but you heard the possible solution. How do you think that would, the rest of the board would feel about that?
Yeah, well, I'm one of 3.
Right, right.
I'll give you my opinion. I think that would probably be tenable so long as Mr. Steinhauer complies with all of the CUP conditions.
Right.
You know, in terms of hours of operation and, you know, keeping excessive vehicles off the property,
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's my one opinion. Vicki, you've been a long-time town clerk. What do you think about that suggestion?
Vicki,
Can we
you probably
get it in
have a very
writing?
good feel for your board, so
May we get it in writing?
get what in writing?
Any, the reason we don't have a motion yet is, I'm going to say that, as was pointed out, this is the public hearing. We have support and opposition, and so we can discuss that further. But if we were to take any action, as has been proposed by Supervisor O'Laughlin, it would need to be in writing, most definitely. Whatever we voted on, just like the other petitions, here's the petition, and here's the conditions of the town and the county.
Thank you, because it was my misunderstanding in coming here, since Mr. Trottenberg had stated in February that there was, it was going to be relocated, so that's why.
And again, what I heard that night, which I appreciate you saying, and some of the other people have mentioned it, that was a possibility, and we have the update this evening on how that's going.
Thank you.
Other questions, supervisors, comments? Then Supervisor Matano.
Ms. Anderson, I bike through Mount Vernon a bit, and my recollection was there was a gas station or former gas station. Is that vacant?
No, the family auto repair shop is located there, and that's.
Okay, so that's not. Thanks.
And then Roger Dishes is over on State Road 92, and then there is a couple others that are all zoned appropriately.
So then you're saying there are 4 or so auto repair places properly zoned in the town?
Yes.
Thanks.
And on that note, we were sent an email from Roger Lane that includes Ms. Anderson's email, and you referred to that this evening. So I have put that next to your statement, or next to your registration this evening, and also Mr. Schultz, I put your email next to your testimony or your signed registration form. What we also have before us is David Garfoot's. We didn't hear from him tonight, correct? David Garfoot? Correct. So it's up if anyone would like to have it entered or not. I would entertain a motion for that to be entered, or I don't have to have a motion, it doesn't.
I'll move to enter it.
Second.
Okay, so we have the motion to enter Mr. Garfoot's email, and again, as I pointed out, the other emails were referred to in their testimony and have been put next to their registration form. So any further discussion on Mr. Garfoot's email being added to the record? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And we have added David Garfoot's email that's basically in support of not revocation. Further questions, discussion for any of the presenters or on the revocation?
I have discussion, but there's a motion.
There's no motion, we're discussing, so. Just because of the public hearing and hearing. Roger?
There was other information that was provided. Mr. Trachtenberg provided some information. Would that be added into the record, or?
Motion to add.
Second.
This email or letter.
All the information that was,
that's
all the emails will just.
They already are. That's what we have. We have Mr. Buller's.
Okay.
Anything else, Roger?
No, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, sir. I'm calling on you. Go ahead.
Keep in mind that this original vote at the town level to revoke was back in February. Time has gone on. I feel like you're moving toward, a grace period here. And again, from my perspective, I think that's fine. It's just that the grace period needs to end at some point. We cannot just keep extending and extending. That's my only comment.
Supervisor O'Laughlin.
I understand that comment. But I also understand what it's like trying to move a business in a short period of time. if there's evidence that shows he did, which his attorney is saying he did, market's pretty hot right now, and to find, commercial space, it's not something that, the Oscar Mayer building has been for sale for 3 years, and it's not sold yet. Okay, any other discussion? Go ahead, I gotta make a motion.
Any other question? Any committee members have any questions or comments before Supervisor Matano?
Well, I guess I'm pretty skeptical of the grace period. The basis for the argument in favor of retaining the business is that he drove a truck through a loophole, that the town government officials have testified that they were told that the business plan was a 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. operation, and they graciously allowed him to say 9 to 9 because he might take an afternoon off and work on it. And he built that into a full-time business. So Attorney Trachtenberg says, gotcha, we lied, you didn't get it in writing, you're screwed. But the limited family business ordinance closes that loophole. So he's operating a full-blown business, 4 other repair shops in the township. I'm amazed there are 4 auto repair businesses in the township as rural as Springdale. I could only think of the one garage I mentioned. And we heard back in February, that he was going to be out looking for a new location. So I feel like we're getting strung along. I feel like we always speak about supporting town government, but when they come to us and ask us to support them, we don't. And in terms of putting him out of business, he started a business on false pretenses, and now we're being told that we're out of luck because we didn't get it in writing. But again, I think the family business ordinance might close that loophole. In terms of the attorney's complaint that government officials won't meet with him, I believe there's a certain rightful concern that ex parte communications can sometimes taint a process, that government proceedings should take place in public, and so I don't think that's an argument. I don't think he's being scorned by people not meeting with him outside of open session. I think open sessions serve a purpose. So again, we're not going to resolve this tonight, but I'm skeptical of being strung along for another 8 months. And then, as my colleague stated, in 8 months, if the building's 3/4 built and it's all underway, but it's still not done, we'll still give them more time. So, this isn't playing out well in my view. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes. Supervisor Miles.
So I guess my thoughts on this are similar to Supervisor Matano. And when we met on this last and put off this public hearing to this date, a pretty extended amount of time, my recollection of that conversation was that this was the period of time in which the property owner could secure another location, and we wouldn't even have to consider this. But yet, here we are. It doesn't have another location yet, and they've admitted they do need to find a different location. To me, that's recognition that they are indeed in violation of the CUP, despite some of the other remarks that they are not. And I think, this, when we look at the CUP, we're supposed to be looking at facts of the matter and then drawing conclusions from the information provided to us and making a finding of those facts. What we heard from some of the neighbors and people that are customers of the petitioner are all very positive things about him as a business person and the quality of service he provides. They're not facts about the intended use of the property under the existing zoning law and existing CUP. And CUP, I should remind everybody, is a form of regulation, and the business plan is submitted as part of that application, and therefore is also a component of the CUP. And I think the facts are that we have seen that there has been ongoing violations in the number of vehicles, and I think the argument that the CUP only states that 2 of those vehicles are for repair is stretching things a little. I don't think the expectation that anybody ever had the expectation that there'd be a number of vehicles there that belong to the property owner, that there'd be basically a limited number of vehicles outside this property. Additionally, condition 4 states there'll be no storage of auto material parts, junk, or junk outside vehicles, as in the sense auto materials. So regardless of whether they're there for repair, there's material outside that being stored outside. So I think that is another finding of fact that I see here, that's a violation of that condition. So putting all this together, I think we would be justified in drawing the conclusion that standards of the 6 standards for granting a CUP, this petition is in violation of standard 2. That the uses, values, and enjoyment of other property in the neighborhood for purposes already permitted shall be in no foreseeable manner substantially impaired or diminished by the establishment, maintenance, or operation of this conditional use. While neighbors aren't, some of the neighbors here aren't making an argument on that front, by us, and this goes to Town Supervisor Rosenbaum's comment about setting precedent if we were to allow this to continue. It does create the risk of that, because what measure do we have then when somebody else starts operating a similar business without getting prior approval? The other standard that is in violation, that this does not meet any longer, is the conditional use, number 6, conditional use shall conform to applicable regulations of the district in which it's located. Again, the CUP and the business plan is a component of that CUP. Has fallen out of compliance with that, so I think that standard is no longer met. So I think at least on those 2 terms, we are justified in invoking the CUP. That is not to, and this is not to say that he's isn't running a value business and provides quality work. And I wish him all the best in finding another location and running a successful business from an appropriate location.
Supervisor Laughlin.
I don't know if many people on this committee have ever been in their own business and realize what it's like when you have to move a business. And I've had to move my own business. It's not something that takes 30, 45, or 60 days. It's a long, drawn-out, worries at night affair for the owner. I don't think there's any question that the owner, Mr. Steiner, and his attorney feel that there have been some violations. I think, cut through the chase, there is stretching the use. I think we all agree with that. I don't think that's the issue here tonight. I see good faith on the part of the applicant to, and I mean this, good faith because we've inspected every 2 weeks for the last 4 months, A. B, you could prove to us if we asked you, I'm sure, how many people you've talked to as far as trying to relocate the business, number one. Number two, you also told us that you're dealing with a builder about trying to get a deal put together. So forget about the fact that what's happened in the past has happened in the past. But now we're going to be asked to judge, to say, it happened in the past, shut them down. I can't do that. I cannot. Had you not done anything, had you not, as far as trying to relocate, as far as trying to get space, kind of thing, I'm willing to give a guy or a gal a second chance. This may be a third. That's okay. We got to live with each other. So I'm very concerned about having this body sit here and put a family out of business when he came to us and said, I'm trying, and it's a commercial business, and it takes a certain type of property with certain type of zoning to relocate. But no, we're going to sit here and say, we gave him 6 months. Hell, 6 months, you can't buy a new house today in 6 months. So I'm very concerned about this.
Okay. Supervisor Bullock.
Yes, thanks. I think what's weighing paramount in my mind right now is the fact that we've heard from the town officials that this business would never have been granted a CUP if they had known, or the town board had known what it was going to morph into. And I also remember, what Supervisor Miles just brought up. The fact that when we met here, when was it, February, one of the options was to find a new place. So here we are, July 1st, basically. That's 5 months.
Okay.
And still no luck. And I understand that, and I agree with some of the things that Supervisor O'Laughlin has brought up, that it takes time. So I guess, again, I'm a big proponent of local control. But I understand your dilemma also, and that you have a family to support. So I guess I would support not until the first of the year, something in between. Something, in like 90 days. But any more than that, I think would be, that'd be from February. You gotta remember, this started in February, and now we're in July. And 90 more days would put us into September. So that would be a remedy I would consider. Anything short of that, I would. Anything different, I wouldn't.
Supervisor Rosenbaum, would you like to comment on a potential of 90 days? Here is, I will clarify, there's been questions about this procedure. Thankfully, we don't do this very often. This is, I think, the only second time in almost 4 years that I've seen a possibility of revocation. So we heard from both sides in February. We're hearing tonight, and I greatly appreciate the town's position, and it was for revocation. But I'm also then asking if, at the very least, before our next work meeting, where we would take it up, because that's typically what we would do. We hear things at a public meeting, and then if the town has taken action before our next work meeting, we say yea or nay to whatever the action is. If the town has taken action, you heard it tonight, postponed until our next work meeting. So somewhere between our next work meeting and Supervisor Bullock has proposed 90 days. I know you're one of three, but I value your opinion.
Yeah. Well, again, as you say, I'm one of three, but I think my position would be if this body that we're in front of could definitely come out and state that the CUP will be revoked. However, you would recommend that Mr. Steinhauer and the town work out a reasonable period of time, I think that would be agreeable. What do you think?
I just agree.
Yeah. I mean, your comments about taking some time to relocate a business, you're absolutely right. I mean, I could understand that, and I sympathize with that. And 90 days could be short, I guess, especially if a rezone is involved. So I guess what I would perhaps like to see this body do is say that the CUP will be revoked and refer it back to the town to set a reasonable date to relocate. And personally, I'm one of three, but I would probably agree to a January 1 date. Again, I'm one of three.
Supervisor Laughlin.
And I'll refer to Attorney Trachtenberg, but we cannot, if we revoke.
Oh.
We could postpone. Well, that's depending
Well,
on action.
I guess where I'm going is that,
I'm not.
see, we've kind of.
I just want, excuse me, because I want to clarify what I just said before I called on you was, it's not for lack of town action. It is because this is a public meeting, and typically we have a public meeting, and we did have opposition tonight, support and opposition, so it would be postponed. And Supervisor Miles, I think, might have an opinion on that,
Well,
or something else.
that was my question at the onset of this conversation.
Right.
Was, and Roger confirmed, our committee rules are silent on a public hearing of this sort, that when there's opposition, then it automatically goes, that it's postponed.
And
so
right.
I think it's just, since it's silent, either we have a committee motion that we're postponing, or you rule as chair that I rule.
Right. Right, and that's why I bring it up. So if someone would like that, to make that motion, or would you like to call on him? Do you have a question for him?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to make the motion.
Okay. What's your
I'll
motion?
second it.
You don't even know what it is yet.
Yes, I do. I'm going to make a motion to postpone any decision on revocation because there's been opposition. We don't know if we could complete that action tonight. Agree with that so far? And ask the well, we don't have to make that decision tonight. What the motion that I was going to make as far as delaying, we don't have to make that tonight.
And just because, again, the unusualness of this evening is why, and Supervisor Miles has pointed out, and
I got the floor. I'll ask Attorney Trachtenberg.
My sole question was of the town. When can they put us on the town agenda? Look, I can read tea leaves. And if you refer tonight, we have a time to discuss it with the town. So the question is, when you people are going to take it up? So my question to the town was, when can we be on the agenda? And that may then interplay with when you people would take it up.
And I would say you don't have a guarantee that it would be on the town agenda because the town already voted to revoke. So it's up to the town if they want to reconsider or anything. They don't have to.
My understanding is there's a likelihood that this town supervisor will request the item be put on the agenda for discussion. What the town board does with it is a different issue, and I would hope the supervisor would advise us that he will make that request as a courtesy to put it on the agenda for whatever the town board wants to do with it.
Can I just throw something out before the motion's made? Since we have a town supervisor here, I'm just suggesting this so that information, just to improve the flow of information, go back to the town. If a motion is eventually going to be made that we're going to
time restricted
committing to revocation to a certain point in time, that's the possibility. And what that delay is for. Is a delay to actually be able to move to a new location, or is it just to have acquired a site, but maybe not necessarily built, what is?
I would give the
what
benefit of the
requirements?
doubt. If he has documented evidence that he has an offer to purchase and a contract with the builder and there's holes being dug and he's got a site, give him the time he needs to do it. If he comes back at the end of the year and he has nothing, then John, I'm going to vote to do it. Is that fair?
Totally, yes.
It is fair.
Yes.
Supervisor
So I
Miles.
have there's a follow-up in that question to Roger. If 6 months' time or whatever it is to the end of the year, we then take action then to revoke, would it be immediate, or would the other possibility be that we have a vote to revoke, in a sense, a conditional revocation, that if the conditions of what you just stated as far as acquiring a site and so forth is not met by whatever date, then it is revoked without the committee taking further action. Is that possible?
There could be, excuse me, a motion to revoke being effective at a certain date. There could be postponement to a date to see how things are progressing. If there is, no progression, that action could be taken to revoke the permit at a particular date. So that could be two possibilities.
Did you have any further questions?
No, I just wanted
Comments?
clarification. If the action was to revoke as of a certain date, then if they relocated, it's a moot point. If they haven't relocated, it would become effective. We would need to have another meeting.
Supervisor Tom, did you have anything you want to ask?
No, I think Supervisor Miles just said what I was thinking. Rather than say, well, let's talk about it again in January, if we say whatever date, whether it's 90 days or 180 days, 7 years, if it's revoked as of January 1, 2029, when that date comes, you don't quibble over it, it's over.
Supervisor Bullock?
And then would that be conditioned upon being moved?
No, it wouldn't be conditioned. It would be a matter of, if the date comes and goes and he hasn't moved, he's out of business because we've revoked the permit.
Okay, I want to, for clarification, there's no motion at this point. But, so I want to, if there were to be a motion, your Supervisor Miles are thinking that if there was a motion to revoke by a certain date, would there be any conditions of town action or the petitioner's action or anything? It's just by this date, it's revoked.
Does town take action on revocation? It's just the committee. It's just the committee.
Right.
It's just the committee. The town had taken, the previous town board had taken action on this, and they had recommended that it be revoked.
But if the town had the conversation about giving some more time to the, because you have said, you have voted to revoke. But I also heard you were willing to have some conversations. Potentially, you're willing to have some conversations. And have it on the agenda, at the very least, was the words that you used.
True, but, if you folks want to set a date that to make this definite, what concerns me is we don't come out of here with a definite plan.
Mm-hmm.
We've sort of been going down two tracks. One track is, continue operating in the same location under the CUP, but maybe tweak it. And the other track is relocate. I would just like to get to one track, relocate, and by a certain date.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. But
exactly
acknowledging you have also the town has said revoke.
Yeah, absolutely. Back in February,
right.
Unanimous.
Did you have a comment, question?
I would say that if we took the action that was to be revoked at a certain date, then obviously there's time for the town to provide a reaction. If they don't like the window, let us know in the meantime. Decide whether to reconsider that.
Why not just postpone and send it back to the town?
Okay, so I sense a potential for a motion to postpone to a date that could be as late as January, one way or another, to postpone. I sense that there's a vote to revoke by a certain date. Go ahead.
All right, then I'll go ahead and make that motion that we revoke the permit as of December 31st, 2017, and in the findings as they were from my statements that standards 2 and 6 are no longer met.
And CUP condition number 4 was in violation.
Right.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to revoke by December 31st, and it's due to the 3 conditions on this.
The 2 standards no longer being met, which is standard 2 and standard 6, and conditional use permit condition number 4 in violation.
And a second, and Supervisor Laughlin.
I'll ask the maker of the motion. So on Christmas Eve, we have a zoning meeting. He comes in, he's got a half-baked deal that's building is coming together, weather was bad, had lead contracts, blah, blah, blah. Should you add something to your motion to allow him to present facts and show that a good effort has been made by him to, because you're not going to get a commercial building today, get proper zoning and built and completed and moved by December 31st. We're
Supervisor Miles, before, I would just add that should it be later than our December work meeting, pardon?
Fair point.
But we have given chances, the community, the town, and we are giving another chance tonight. And I appreciate property rights, but I look at the other auto repair places who are conforming to the conditions that their businesses were set up. So I think December work meeting is particularly generous considering the town voted to revoke in January? February, it was February.
Was it January?
It was January.
Yeah, and you came here in February, so it was January.
All right, let me take another snap at it. That will be revoked as of the 2nd December.
The work meeting. Unless the
property owner has documentation that a site has been acquired, giving a window of time if it's
all right, I'll support that.
But let me just state, and just as a discussion point, I guess, that we're saying, you've been arguing, Supervisor Laughlin, 6 months is enough time. Really, we're talking about going back to February that this started. So it's, we're not saying, I don't think we're being unreasonable in saying 6 months, this needs to be done. Because it hasn't been 6 months. It's been, at that point, it will not have been 6 months. It was almost a year.
And so for clarification on your motion, it is
proof that a site has been acquired. Process.
That's why I'm asking. It is for revocation by work meeting of December. For me personally, if it's revocation unless, whatever the conditions, like I said, I appreciate what you've done, but I also appreciate what others have done for their businesses and their properties. And it's very generous. So if it is changed, if additional conditions or are added to it, I will be voting no. But if it is that it is revocation on the work meeting of December, I will vote yes. Further discussion on, and again, please correct me if I don't have it correct, but it is to revoke by the December work meeting of the ZLR committee.
With the conditions he's talking about.
If, okay, so, and you would like the conditions of
that there's proof that a site,
that there's proof that an alternative site has been acquired. Okay, so the motion is proof of.
But I want to be certain that that's something that's administrable, enforceable by staff.
Okay, you're going to have to restate that one just a little bit because there was a motion to revoke the conditional use permit on the December work meeting date if there is a place to go, or
it will be revoked as of the December work meeting unless the property owner has provided proof that he has secured a new location for the business.
I have a question. Does that mean moved, or does that mean just?
I'm sorry, let's, okay. So your motion is?
Supervisor Matano is, or O'Loughlin is arguing that it may take them 6 months to acquire the site, not be able to have a new facility built.
Supervisor Matano, you seconded?
Well, second.
Yeah, I second the original one.
And
I get off at this point. There's I didn't actually find it in the package, but there's an item here that says 2008 violation, and this has been going on for a long time. And we're saying you get 6 months on top of the 6 months you've already had, and then you come to us in 6 months with a note from your mom. It'll be okay. But I can't go for that.
I'm sorry, so,
but
you are the,
so I'm not the second anymore because the motion.
I'm sorry.
Actually, I'm sorry. I have to apologize because after I think about it, and as I stated before, we've been working on this.
Are you going to
window has been.
How about make this clean and rescind your motion? I think
So I will rescind the motion. I'll go back to my original motion. We revoke as of, change it from December 31st to this
work meeting.
If the petitioner is, and if the petitioner is moved, then it's a moot point. So make it simple.
Okay, so your motion is that the revocation would be effective our December work meeting. Is there a second?
Well, that's the motion I had seconded. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure, Supervisor Montano, are you seconding?
I am seconding.
Okay, so the motion is to revoke on the work meeting, December ZLR work meeting.
Yes.
That would be December 13th.
December 13th. Supervisor O'Loughlin.
This is crazy. I'm telling you, this is crazy what we're doing here tonight. He cannot, I will assure you, unless he finds I don't want to preach. Stop preaching. We're not giving him adequate time to. He's got a contractor he's working with right now. Even if he signed a contract tonight, I don't believe you'd have a building built by December 13th and moved into by December 13th. So, I mean, I just think there has to be a little give and take on this. I know the past. The past is the past is the past. But a businessman, obviously very well respected. Neighbors are upset. I don't blame them. He didn't comply. I understand all that. But I just think there has to be more give and take as far as time goes.
Yes.
What I have is there's been no violations in the last 4 months. There's numerous opposition to revoking the permit from his neighbors, who the business directly affects and helps. Well, there's one family who supports revocation along with the town. Furthermore, the town will not meet with him, and he is currently trying to find a new location for his business.
And valid points. And please note that the town voted, so this would be we don't go back. The town takes their action, and the town voted to revoke. So the conversations that we had wouldn't necessarily even need to occur. But to your point, and our colleagues here, I come back to the fact that 4 auto repair shops operate in the town. Is that correct? That are meeting the requirements. And your business, your auto repair has been there since 2008. The conditions of the CUP have been known to all, particularly to you and the town, and they're before us because of the alleged violations of the CUP conditions. So it's not just for the last, it is for, as you pointed out, since 2008. Other comments, Supervisor Bullock?
Just for clarification, Roger, would you repeat the motion as you have it?
The
most current motion.
Yes. There is a motion by Miles, second by Matano, to revoke the conditional use permit as of December 13th, 2017. Findings of fact that the conditional use permit, condition number 4, is in violation, and the conditional use permit no longer meets the standards of item 2 and item 6 of the 6 standards.
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
That's all I have.
Any further discussion, questions for anyone? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion and the second to revoke on December 13th due to the conditions in the CUP? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
No.
No.
Thank you. And so the motion is passed. Next is plats and certified survey maps.
Yeah, the first one is a land division waiver for the town of Primrose, section 28. You saw the rezone petition 2 weeks ago by Stephen Flatch for a 4-lot certified survey map. Rezone petition 1120. Applicant is asking for a waiver from the minimum requirement of 66 feet of frontage along a public road for proposed lot 1. The surveyor is showing a 66-foot access easement running along the easterly portion of lot 2 for access. So I believe lot 1, the 5.09 acre parcel that has no frontage, was being rezoned to A4. So there's no proposed development. This is the petition where they were trading lands to accommodate some various land uses. I think there's some hunting issues required.
Okay, what do you need from us then?
Just a motion, one way or the other, to approve the land division waiver to allow lot 1 to have no public road frontage. If the motion is to approve, then the condition will be that when the certified survey map is approved, there will be a note on the CSM by this committee that allows lot 1 to have no public road frontage.
What was the zoning on lot 1?
I believe it was to A4 agricultural.
But there's no proposed.
That is correct. There's going to be a land swap. The owner right here is swapping land with the owner here. to acquire, well, he uses this for hunting purposes. He wants to get a portion down by the stream for hunting purposes.
Right, and that property owner has adjacent property to that, yes?
That's, the Flacks are purchasing that property there in exchange for this property here. Currently, this does not have any road frontage. It's just used for hunting purposes.
I guess my question is, lot one is there's no proposed development.
No, that's correct. No, it's going to A4. It'll just be used for hunting purposes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it's approved.
All right, thank you. The next one is another waiver. This is with regards to the preliminary plat of community in Bishops Bay. This is located in the town of Westport, section 32. The next item on the agenda is for conditional approval, but there are several design standards that need to be looked at with regards to this plat. Chapter 75 does allow for the committee to allow for a waiver, and I've got a note with regards to on the map portion, and it's just text right out of Chapter 75. The requirements and standards of this chapter may be waived by the committee for planned developments, providing such proposed developments shall be planned as a unit, be appropriate to the site and location, shall be of sufficient size to permit the unified development of the area, shall not conflict with other laws or requirements, or with the purpose or intent of this chapter, and is approved by the committee. In addition, continued provision, maintenance, and use of open space, recreation areas, services, and amenities shall be assured in a manner acceptable to the committee. So we do have a representative with Beerbecker as well. Yep.
Okay. And you're here if we have any questions.
Correct.
Question for Dan. So, excuse me. So the idea of the planned development district, which this is that similar to like a PUD where this whole process of design and so forth that goes back through the town approval, development plan, and all that stuff?
I believe so, in conjunction with the city of Middleton.
Right. Well, there's a joint ETC between the two, right? So it is, all of this is going back through that process.
Yep, I'm Matt Schreiner with Beerbecker Associates representing Bishops Bay tonight. So we are in Middleton's joint zoning, extraterritorial joint zoning area. We're also in the Westport Middleton joint planning area. So we have recently received approval from the City of Middleton Plan Commission on the SIP to approve the zoning specific to this project, as we need to go through as part of their PUD or PDD, they call it, process. Joint Zoning Committee met on the 21st, and they did approve that zoning as well as the preliminary plat, and the Town Plan Commission approved the preliminary plat, obviously all the conditions, but yes, we do need to go through.
I'll move if we grant the waiver.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to grant the waiver. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's granted.
So the next item on the agenda then is conditional approval of the preliminary plat. It consists of 86 residential lots and 16 outlots, 53 acres. As we just discussed a little bit ago, City of Middleton, ETZ, Land Development District. These lots are served by municipal sewer and water. There should be in your packet a memo with regards to planning comments from Kurt Kodal. We just discussed the waiver. Public parkland appropriation requirement is to be satisfied. I show that outlot 32, roughly 4.3 acres, is being dedicated to the public for park purposes. Comments from the County Highway Department are to be satisfied. County Highway M is a controlled access highway. Bishops Bay Parkway to be constructed as per plans approved by the Highway Department. Preliminary plans have been submitted and reviewed. Intersection includes divided roadway to develop left turn lane, right turn lane, and bike facilities. And 80-foot total right-of-way is to be dedicated to the public for highway purposes. street names with regards to Chapter 76 are to be assigned by our county surveyor. And then the standard condition with regards to erosion control and stormwater are to be satisfied. Outlot 29, which is 4.5 acres, is being dedicated to the public for stormwater management.
Supervisor Brown?
Yes, are you in agreement with all the conditions?
We are.
You understand those?
We do.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for hanging in there all night. Dan?
Next one is Welcome Homes, preliminary plat located in the town of Middleton. And what I put on your the desk here earlier is a memo from Kurt Kodal. He got to it a little bit later than usual, so it did not make the packet. I can just kind of go through that in general.
Oh, there it is.
There are no major conflicts with the Dane County Comprehensive Plan. Natural resources, there's no streams or wetlands are indicated on the property, no floodplains indicated on the property, so there's no sensitive environmental features. So everything looks like it's in order from that standpoint. Is there
Ingress egress is off Mineral Point Road?
Yes. Is there anybody here for this plat? There's just a few things that I was looking for clarification. I believe I've got them. It's not necessarily in writing, but there's no parkland that's being dedicated to the public. Usually what I have seen with plats in the town of Middleton is they are paying fees in lieu of the parkland. So that's one issue. Sounds like that's being taken care of. The other requirement is regards to Outlot 2 does not necessarily meet the minimum frontage. We require 66 feet for any lot. So I kind of leave it up to the committee as far as if we want to bring a waiver back through. Outlot 2 is there's no improvements. There's no development. It's going to be used for dedication of stormwater facilities.
If we granted a waiver, could we do a condition that it not be developed?
Either that or the other suggestion that I thought of would be to put a note on the plat, no residential development on Outlot 2. So this is, I've seen this more often than not with the town of Middleton. It's something that they require. For whatever reason,
what is something they require?
These outlots to have a 50-foot minimum road frontage. Where, from what I understand, they don't recognize or allow for shared access easements that meet our provision in Chapter 75 for a 66-foot wide access easement. But they only require for these outlots to be 50 feet in width.
And if it was simply a note on the plat map, what would have to happen well, first of all, if it's an outlot, is it dedicated to the town?
Yes.
Then? So it's under town ownership?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the town would, if they wanted to change its use, it would have to make that decision and rezone, and then we'd have that put into the public. Okay, so in some fashion it would end up, if their use was intended to be changed.
Yeah, Outlot 2, public stormwater management easement is what they've got on here.
Okay, so your suggestion is that one possible suggestion is a note saying that it's not intended for.
And we've had several of these over the last handful of years, and the committee has approved a land division waiver with regards to their outlots not meeting the 66 feet of public road frontage.
Well, I guess I'd be comfortable if you put in revised condition 4 to require the note.
Sure.
Did you want to make a motion with that condition?
Okay, I'll move conditional approval of the preliminary plat. This is preliminary, right? Yeah, preliminary plat with revision of condition 4, requiring a note on the plat map stating that it's not for development.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plat with the notes that Dan is writing down. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So it's conditional approval.
Thank you. And the next preliminary plat is located in the town of Bristol, Wellington Trace. This is in section 30, just north of the city of Sun Prairie off of Birch Street. This plat consists of 33 lots, a little over 40 acres, zone A1, so there's no change in zoning. These lots will be served by private on-site septic systems. There is a memo with regards to comprehensive plan by Pam Andros. There are no public parklands being shown. And all the other conditions are standard, but the other outstanding issue from staff's point of view or concerns are the hydric soils that are present within this 40-acre proposed development. And there is somebody here, yes, representing the plat. I believe there is talking with a surveyor, going back and forth with some email messages, that there is some possible conditions that could be placed on this preliminary plat to address the higher water table in some areas. So.
Is that the southwest corner of that plat that you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm Gary Blazik with Beerbecker Associates. There was a wetland delineation done out here, and it was at, they found a small area of wetlands at the southwest corner.
Yeah.
Yep. But there are hydric soil indicators on there. They went out and did test holes, test pits, and have elevations of the water levels. There's no issues with water levels on the southeast quadrant of this quarter section, or 40 acres. It's mainly to the west where everything drains to. The builder and we are designing stuff to get those lots up so that the footings and foundations, basements are going to be above any water levels that they measured out there. So there's a concern on their part too to make sure that they get high enough.
Any questions?
Well, I guess I'm curious if there's going to be filling involved to get buildings height sufficient enough to get above the water table. What's the impact on stormwater mitigation or stormwater utilities?
Outlot 1 is going to be stormwater, and we're running models on there. We've talked with Ryan Shore at Dane County, and he knows what we're trying to do with it too. So filling it doesn't have any impact on what we're doing for stormwater. We're not filling that area per se. We're filling the lots. This lot configuration is a little bit outdated. This is shown so that you can see where the test holes were dug. But the outlot essentially is in the same location or in that general vicinity.
Right. Oh, okay. So there's an outlot, but you're talking about changing the topography of which building sites? Which area?
Essentially everything from there to the east.
East of the outlot?
East of the outlot, yes. The areas in the southwest or the southeast corner, those actually will be cut down a little bit. There's no issues with any groundwater over there. The groundwater issues are really on the western half of this plat.
Okay, so like lots, say roughly 18 to 21.
Yeah.
22.
Yep. And all around that cul-de-sac, we're going to set elevations so that we're 2 to 3 feet above what the groundwater is.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if those elevations are going to be increased, you're going to essentially maybe change, if not the volume, the rate at which water flows to the outlot. I guess that's my question. Is it sufficient to handle that? Is this something that's going to land and water resources?
Yeah, they'll do all the stormwater management. and it'll need to comply with Dane County regulations.
Okay.
So what do you actually need from us tonight?
Well, it's before you for conditional approval, but staff does have concerns with some of the hydric soils within that area. And it sounds like the developer and the engineer have a solution. They're bringing fill in. Are there basements proposed?
Yes.
On all these lots?
Yes.
And from what I understand, there's going to be a minimum.
Right, each
elevation?
lot, each lot we're going to depict where the groundwater is and where the basement can be. So there'll be a separation.
Because right now, with that boring map, there are some areas where it's anywhere from 5 to 7 feet below grade is where they're hitting.
So this could be brought back to us.
It could.
So we would have more information.
At the next work meeting, or maybe we can get something in writing from Land and Water Resources from Ryan Shore with regards to the additional stormwater. Is outlot suitable to handle additional?
Sure.
Well, I guess I'd want to know that, and then we've had at least one other subdivision where we've had hydric soils where we look for a total redesign to avoid that. Because we don't want to have property owners down the road when the developers are long gone complaining to town government or the county about water in their basement. So I guess I feel like I need a little more information about.
I would suggest identifying the water table on each lot, and then identifying, setting a bare minimum of footing or basement slab at least 2 feet above that water table.
2 feet sufficient?
2 feet would be sufficient.
But the other question I had is, what did the town of Bristol do? Do they have any other conditions? I believe they granted approval of the preliminary plat
They
back
did.
in June 12th or whatever. But
They had concerns of the same thing with the groundwater, and we explained what we were planning on doing, and that sufficed for what they were looking for.
So at this point, then, maybe it's best to postpone to the next work meeting, which is, I believe, July 11th?
13th.
And just look for some additional information from the engineer with regards to stormwater and clarification on the depth to the water table identified.
Take that back.
each
It's the
lot.
11th. It is the 11th. Sorry.
And then making a condition, or adding a condition to what I've already got, that basement elevations must be higher than 2 feet above whatever that water table is for that respective lot.
So it's in 2 weeks.
So I will move postponement to July 11th.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to postpone until our July 11th meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you for
Sure.
the information tonight. And any questions that you have for us? For clarity?
No.
Okay, you know what we're
Yeah.
looking for. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. The next is a final plat. This is in the city of Verona, Cross Point Estates. This is before you for a certification of non-objection. 12 lots, 3.4 acres. No parks being shown. You have 9 Mound Road directly to the west, as far as parkways go. Major corridors of highways, you got Verona Avenue to the south. All lots are subject to public easements for drainage purposes, and drainage arrows are shown. Outlot 1 is being dedicated to the public for stormwater management.
I move we do not object.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for non-objection. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
That was the original what?
Okay.
Mink farm.
No other business. Oh, we got a survey map, certified survey maps reports.
Yeah, those are the ones that have been approved, signed, recorded since the last time we met.
Okay.
Or I should say, since the last time I had the report.
Any questions for Dan on CSMs?
Ready for a final motion?
Any questions for Dan on the CSMs? No, okay.
Move adjournment.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So no one's opposed to that. Good timing.
I
It's a good meeting.
Thank you.
It wound about a bit, but
That's, I know. I mean,
Appreciate your concern.
especially when the numbers are like.
I know.
40
I know.
inches, 55
I know.
inches.
You're hard-ass
That's
captain.
what, because I asked you what the.
Right up until we're done.
Hard-ass captain.
Who knew it?
That's pushing it. That's really, really good.
I'm a hard-ass chief, but I have a soft spot.
Oh.
I don't know. But especially if I'm business for self.
When I was in the recruiting, I had a recruiter. It's like, how would you do that?
So I was, good job, Sam. Good questions. Good analysis. You can see a very difficult situation there.
Trying to consummate the relationship. So, to me, what
It's
I
a
feel is
very difficult situation. Yeah. You know, unfortunately, we were down there in 2008 going, you're in violation, you don't even have any.
Why would it be like that any
You told
other
it
time?
you were going to build a
This is
residential.
This is,
accessory
you really
building,
screwed up, and you're gonna hear it.
stored cars.
But anyway.
That was in 2005, 2008, we show up and there's cars all over the place, and he's repairing them. So, I understand Cal's point, they kind of said, okay, you know, you could have your small, you know, you could have your hobby there and everything, but then, you know, it keeps growing.
Good comments.
You know?